Snow Kings Day. We had 13 canvases across Ohio. We have over 900 new supporters gained, and our new supporters, getting people on our supporters list helps Rank the Vote Ohio get the word out, know how much support we have for ranked choice voting in an area. It gives us an idea of how many people we spoke to, because for every person that signed, I'm sure that there's quite a few more that we've actually explained what ranked choice voting is. So I'm super excited for all of that activity. I thought that our supporters, our volunteers just basically killed it Saturday. And I really want to congratulate each and every one of them. We have a Krispy Kreme fundraiser going on. If you buy a dozen glazed donuts with our link, which is in the agenda, we get 50% of the proceeds. So that's a win-win. You can bring a dozen donuts to work and you can be the hero in 2 places. Woohoo! So as far as SB 63, there's no hearing for it this week. We don't know if and when they will ever bring it up for another vote, but if it does go through, as I said in my email last week, it's not over. We have all kinds of things that we can do, and we can overcome. I like this little graphic by Ohioans Against Extremism with Teresa Gavarone and Bill DeMora. Let's team up to block third parties because choices are not what they want. All righty. Oh, so I would like to take this moment and introduce Pat Zabawa. I hope I said that right. Pat Zabawa is the executive director of Rank My Vote. Pat heard about Rank My Vote from a friend in 2019, joined as a volunteer, and over the next 6 years took on additional responsibilities as Rank My Vote won city campaigns in Ann Arbor in 2021, East Lansing, Kalamazoo, and Royal Oak in 2023. I actually was part of that campaign. I phone banked for you guys, so I was super happy to see that it won. And Pat became executive director in 2025. Rank My Vote is in the midst of a 6-month signature campaign to place ranked choice voting on the November 2026 ballot in Michigan. Historically a software developer, Pat has shown that with passion for ranked choice voting and a supportive community, so much is possible. Please, everyone, give Pat a big welcome.
Thanks, Denise. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, cool. And feel free to speak up at any time. But yes, thank you for that introduction. And yes, there'll be Q&A afterward. But yes, feel free to flag if you can't hear me or if the connection cuts out or it's loud at any time. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. It's great to be present for you all. You're all doing such amazing work. And so I wanted to highlight not only the campaign, but the amazing work that you're all doing. Or in what I talk about tonight, or at least in particular, just going into every conversation we have about ranked choice voting is one that lasts forever. And I say that because as we grow statewide, it's really cool to run into elected officials, people with actual power who will say, "Oh, I saw a presentation in 2020 about ranked choice voting, and you don't need to sell me. I'm totally sold." Or I worked on a ranked choice voting campaign 20 years ago, and I'm totally sold. And it's amazing to see that. So, and my interpretation, I don't know if this is how official this is, but looking at the data from my interpretation of the data is once people know about ranked choice voting, it's hard for them to go back. They're very immune to opposition messaging. They're like, yes, this is the way forward. So I want to particularly highlight that at the beginning of my presentation or my discussion with you all to at least to say what I've been experiencing in the statewide uh,
Sorry, I'm
in our
on a
statewide
call.
campaign that people are hearing about ranked choice voting throughout their lives, and that lasts with them. So all your good work is permanent good work in all the people that you talk to and get to be aware of, get to know, get to love ranked choice voting. Um, the the history of Rank My Vote, I do want to say, as with as Denise just said, Rank My Vote was founded in 2019. I joined not in founding group, but in as a volunteer that year, and I thought I was just joining as a volunteer. And over the next 6 years was asked, and I was intrigued enough to join the communications team, the board of directors, the associate director, and this year be executive director. So it's in all of us, I know, to have the kind of to execute the kind of change that we all believe in. And I want to also talk about, though Rank My Vote was founded in 2019, ranked choice voting in Michigan, actually the first campaign was won by a group of volunteers in 2004, so 21 years ago. And that's where it's still some elected officials first heard about ranked choice voting. So even though ranked choice voting had been dormant in the 16 years in Michigan since then, uh, its effect, the effect of every conversation that we have is lasting and permanent. So I, again, want to emphasize that all the good work you're doing is work that lasts forever. Um, Rank My Vote began in 2019, and I was a software developer at that time. Rank My Vote began by volunteers from Michigan's anti-gerrymandering effort in 2018. Volunteers who believed that ranked choice voting was the next important reform for Michigan. So those volunteers founded Rank My Vote. I joined. COVID, of course, threw all of our plans awry, and so we pivoted to working on city campaigns, which we won in Ann Arbor in 2021, East Lansing, Kalamazoo, and Royal Oak in 2023. And these campaigns, I can get into a lot of them into detail in Q&A, but these campaigns were really volunteer focused. So our strengths in the cities that we chose to execute these campaigns in were really where our volunteer strength lied, and that's what a strong part of guided our city campaign efforts and wins ultimately. I mean, all four of the campaigns that we've won, that we've run, have won. And so again, that's another strength of volunteer power to all of you. Even just a couple of volunteers can really get a city campaign going and get a city campaign launched and ultimately winning. Yeah, now we're in the midst of a statewide campaign to bring ranked choice statewide to Michigan. 3 months, we're almost exactly 3 months into our 6-month campaign. Our campaign began, the idea of it began, what month is it? It's October, a year and a half ago. And again, this shows the volunteer power. Now I'm going to be thinking of all the individual steps of the campaign that got together. Me and the executive director at the time, Ron Zimmerman, always had the possibility, right? So many of us in the organization had the possibility of a statewide campaign in mind. But it's always difficult as to how you launch and how do you make decisions, how do you resource it up. And while we had volunteers approach us all the time, of course, and so it's always important to be receptive to new volunteers. But one of our volunteers, and now one of our South Central field team lead, Christian Potts, was an undergrad who approached us and said he wanted to speak to Rank My Vote, and I asked if he could leading forward 40 town halls around the state in the fall, and he said yes. And I said, I think we have a campaign. That's really the start of our statewide campaign. Sorry that it's getting dark here and there's no lights. So over the summer, with that in mind, it was much easier to have a placement for the volunteers who came to us. Volunteers came to us. We said, then we have a campaign for them to work on. Just in terms of the speaking campaign, the 40 and 40 town halls, and even at that first town hall, we got a lot of people who eventually became some of our strongest volunteers. So just from that campaign, while even some of those campaigns didn't have many, some of those town halls didn't have many attendees. I mean, Christian was asking at the beginning, like, how many people are we going to get? And I said, just keep in mind, even if we have 0 people come, so many to any individual town hall, so many people are going to hear about ranked choice voting through the town hall series. And that's exactly what happened. And our growth uh, only, of course, only grew since then. So we did 40 town halls around the state, but part of our thought process, uh, fortunately and unfortunately, but we knew that external events would also galvanize our campaign. So we did that campaign in the fall before election season, or before during election season, sorry, before the presidential election and the November 2024 elections. So of course we were competing with a lot of political attention at the time when we did the town hall series. Uh, but we still picked up volunteers. Like I said, a lot of our core team we picked up then. We picked up a lot of the energy of people who were frustrated, but knew that a lot of people also were working on the national and statewide and local campaigns that were happening in November of 2024. There's a lot of, like I said before, fortunate and unfortunate things in our that then create a campaign. So we were it's unfortunate for many people. The results of the November 2024 election it was a galvanizing moment for our movement and a way that we were already established in the state to be able to focus frustrated people's energy. So we gained additional volunteers and support from there that of course only exploded. Our that goes into our galvanizing movements, our galvanizing aspects of the campaign that we with our signature campaign that we're running now. And this is a really big overview as to what our big galvanizing moments were. But we grew steadily and we became more aware of around the state, both in terms of slowly getting press hits and of course keeping on volunteers, but gaining volunteers. But our big strategic growth moments were the No Kings rallies. So we, through that volunteer base, were strategically set up to, in April of last year at the No Kings rally, gain thousands of new volunteer signups. Uh, Even though we at that point had not started the signature campaign. This again, of course, happened in June, right before we launched the signature campaign. And I was just telling Denise at the beginning of this call that then the No Kings rally this past Saturday, we were ready to be out there at 400. So we had 400 volunteers, almost 400 volunteers out at almost 100 events, but we were much more experienced at the events and how to handle them. This time, instead of gathering volunteer signups and instead of gathering signatures, we knew here we want to get additional volunteer circulators, not only volunteer circulators that we would theoretically have in the future, but hand out clipboards right there and then at the No Kings rallies for people who wanted them. And this happened right in front of me. I was at 3 events and there were people who picked up clipboards right from the start when I would ask them. We had much more penetration. We had much more penetration over our year and month since we started the town hall series, where 98% of people at No Kings rallies already were already pretty aware of ranked choice voting and signed. Yeah, so it was great to see that penetration. And it's great to see around the state now, not only amongst left-leaning people, but amongst people of all backgrounds. It's amazing to see the people who don't fit the red and blue typical political cultures that we see in the news who are approaching our campaign because of its penetration in the media, and be that outlet for people to join who want a better and different and better representation in all the various ways that they do. So it's amazing to see that. So our campaign, we started signature gathering in July 17th, utilizing those volunteer moments that I mentioned earlier, particularly the No Kings rallies, which are national, of course, national rallying moments that we were able to utilize for our campaign. Like the press hits that we were able to get along the way and utilize events like in Michigan, we have to go to the Board of State Canvassers, which was a huge news moment for us to get our petition approved. So we're able to utilize those moments to specifically get in front of both activists and the news media to propel our campaign into its signature gathering. It started July 17th, apologies. We're 3 months in and still going strong. As I said, like this No Kings rally on this Saturday was just such a huge growth moment for us to take the strength that we have now in terms of our hundreds of volunteers and use that to just get hundreds more of people clipboards in people's hands so that the next and last 3 months of the campaign before we're done on July 13th is our target end date, able to get the targets, the required over 446,000 signatures that we need from around the state. Um, that's a brief overview of the campaign. Denise, what should I dive into, or should we wait for Q&A? But I'll
Um,
re-highlight, I guess, or go on. Or I was going to re-highlight what I said at the beginning.
you do that. Do your rehighlight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to say, again, it is so cool. So now that we are going around the state, meeting people, it is so cool. Like I said, to talk to elected representatives, be building our endorsement base, but talk to so many people who said they'd already seen a presentation. They might have seen a presentation before they were an elected official, but now since, because they're politically active and they've seen those presentations and they're aware of ranked choice voting from as far back as our 2004 campaign, now they're in elected office and they're already supporters because of that exposure that they've had in the promotion that we've done of ranked choice voting in, and I'm saying we in Michigan, but also you all have done around the state and continue to do. These people that we're talking to could so eventually become elected officials at the local, city, county, judge, judicial, and state levels, and be able to help ranked choice voting move along. Keep up the great work, Denise. What did I miss, and what can I say that's added on to it?
Um, could you provide a just like a quick timeline of how you expanded and like the exponential growth, like your pivot points? I know that you said the No Kings were a big one, but you were already getting big before then. So
Yes, there's many. Sorry, thinking of pivot points. There's a couple of so in terms of the timeline of our campaign, I mean, we were founded with a statewide campaign in mind, so that was always a thought of ours, but and always in the back of our minds. But of course, ran those city campaigns in Ann Arbor 2021, East Lansing, Kalamazoo, Royal Oak in 2023. After the 2023 wins, thinking of a statewide campaign, and so we began with the basics, like I said, in terms of just thinking of how do we do a town hall series to talk about people around the state, to do that, to get people aware of the statewide campaign. So when Christian approached us, he was offered to do a lead town hall series. And of course, we could take up volunteers from that with that energy. We announced then in August on a Zoom, there were like 200 people came because we were a 6-year-old organization. We already had 200 people come to our launch Zoom, where we talked about our goal and the town hall series. From there, we did the town hall series September through November of 2024, pretty much through the election cycle. And then we were very off the ground running from there in terms of our self-organization and ability to fill up. From there, we were structured as like what we would need for a statewide campaign in terms of our internal structure. We were able to, over the next couple of months, build those up. We were also able, or we were lucky at that time, to hit fundraising goals, at least from one particular in-state donor who donated $100,000 to the campaign. So that at least hit that pivot point of being able to meet funding goals to start. With our internal structure, then we filled in our internal structure in terms of the committees that we need, marketing, fundraising, et cetera, and then be prepared for the April No Kings rallies. I'm thinking of pivot points from beyond then. We hit those well enough to think that we could go to the Board of State Canvassers as well as the June No Kings rallies, which were again a propelling momentum moment. In terms of launching the signature drive, we wanted to wait to do that until we had the field structure laid out. So we wanted to have sufficient volunteers and sufficient roles. We have a hierarchical statewide field structure from campaign director to the statewide field leads, regional leads, circular captains, and then captains. Have those that structure filled out with sufficient volunteers so that we could have unlimited capacity, really, to take on additional volunteer circulators, position circulators. We didn't want there to be particular bottlenecks for any new circulator in a region. Make sure that they had a captain they could report to, and a new captain could have a field lead to report to, and on up. So that was another bottleneck that we were waiting to fill the roles of before we launched our signature gathering in July 17th. Those are the big pivot points I'm thinking of. These are the checkpoints to check off before the next step. If that answers the question. If I
Yes, thanks so much. We do have quite a few questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and start with the first one. Michelle Jackson writes,
I might go off camera too.
Okay. How did you get circulators trained on the spot? What is your verification process?
So one at a time. How do we get circulators trained on the spot? So we built. So our model is, like I said, it's one to remove bottlenecks. So we do have ranked choice voting 101, and we do have pitch trainings that are available and encouraged, of course, for our volunteers. But there's two things that we have that are important. I think one are our clipboards themselves that we, through our volunteers' help, have made and mass produced, have a lot of the core and key information that they need on them. But otherwise, training is important, but we made a conscious choice not to have that be a blocker from someone getting a clipboard themselves. Now, that was just actually that sort of handing out the clipboard, something we just started really on No Kings. Otherwise, before that, a new circulator is gotten in touch with to a local captain. Starting at No Kings this Saturday, that's when we really just did really fast, handing a clipboard to someone with petitions. But of course, that clipboard has a lot of information on it, as I just mentioned. Before that, a circulator would get in touch with a local captain to be trained. So while we had the mass statewide meetings, it would be a local captain that would get you your clipboard, be your single point of contact, be your place to hear information about from the campaign about, be able to ask questions to. So it was a hierarchical model that we had so that you as a circulator would have your own captain, and the captain would only have a couple of people that they would be responsible for to create a more intimate environment where they could be trained and have questions answered in real time with as much intimate attention as possible. The second question was about verification. Yes, I mean, in Michigan, we're a big petition state, so there's firms that do validation. We're also entering them. The captain's also entering them into our own data entry process itself. So there's really two levels. It's kind of the free that we're doing on our own, and then the paid signature verification.
All right, thank you. Casey writes, what are some of the things about the petition process that you wish you had known before you started, or any other general advice that you might have?
I would say in a general sense, we're lucky on our campaign. Well, I'm a volunteer and moved up from being a software developer to getting the great experience of running city campaigns. We're lucky in Rank My Vote to have a campaign director who's had statewide campaign experience and campaign experience in the state in general. Just as a professional, he's a lot of specific knowledge that is core. So him plus our Joe Spalding, plus Kyle Bailey, who's worked on the campaigns in Maine, be on the team are great supplements, and I think they're key to running a successful campaign. Having national and your own experts, professionals from the national ranked choice voting environment and your own state campaign environment with those relationships and with to key players, as well as the experience of setting up a field campaign are critical. We've not gotten this far without those, and that goes into another thought. Is like so much of campaign I'm learned, so much of politics in general is who you know. That sounds uh when we hear that, that's like, oh, it sounds like there's a lot of like it sounds suspect, I should say, to people. But now that I've learned, meeting a lot of people, you create relationships. So just going to a party meeting or anywhere where there's anyone politically active and just having conversations with people, their intrigue could lead them to eventually being a donor or being a campaign director, campaign advisor for you. And it's important to have that in mind. And I think it'd be easy for me. I would say at the beginning to be like, oh, I'm here just to present. And you're here at any location. It's important to present and grab those business cards, follow up with people. People do want to make the world better, and keeping those contacts in mind and storing them and keeping up with them is, I think, really critical to a campaign and grassroots movements like ours, like ranked choice voting in general. I'll leave it.
All right, thank you. The next question, for your ballot initiative, in a primary, would voters get one ballot with all the candidates that qualified regardless of party? I guess she's asking if you are planning to have open primaries on your ballot.
We, in Michigan, we have semi-open primaries where the voter can get a Republican or a Democratic ballot in the primary. We did not touch that in the end. I mean, we added ranked choice voting to the covered offices within the primary, but the voter still has the Republican or the Democratic primary to participate in, as well as ranked choice voting in general elections for covered offices. Not to say that could
Okay, and then,
change in future reforms or with the legislature to change that, but our policy
yeah.
did not in the end.
Next question, can you talk about any bans and how you overcame the pushback because of them? Now, I do want to reiterate to everybody here that that Michigan is not able to use ranked choice voting until they change their constitution, because the way the constitution is written, unless you want to correct that, Pat.
Yeah, absolutely. And this brings up a couple things. One, you asked about pivot points. I did not really get into the policy summits that we had in the winter from the November when we were getting more serious after the town hall series, November through February, where we had policy summits where we came together to design this level of our policies. So that was an important part of public participation and supporter participation as well in defining what we would be implementing. Um, yeah, okay. The status of ranked choice voting in Michigan. So ranked choice voting was used in Michigan in the past. It was used in Kalamazoo in the 20s and Ann Arbor in the 70s. And then it passed in Ferndale in 2004. But by then, the state argued that uh, statute updates on ballot design, so specifically how ballots must be laid out, prevented use of ranked choice voting. So the Bureau of Elections claimed, well, statute says that you can only have one column per candidate now, and so you can't use ranked choice voting. It's not an explicit ban on ranked choice voting. It's just that the Bureau of Elections interpretation of statute at present. We think that the cities probably have a legal right to use ranked choice voting under the home rule city aspects of this state constitution. We have not gone about challenging that in court. So instead, because it's ambiguous, the Michigan the House Republican Caucus voted to ban ranked choice voting this spring, this summer, a couple months ago. Mostly, I mean, this session mostly a messaging bill because they assumed they knew it didn't impact our petition because our petition is a constitutional amendment. That's unfortunate. Yeah, that's very unfortunate, of course. Now, our reaction to that has been to pretty much keep going and keep our heads down because it doesn't have an impact on our petition, and make sure that the legislators who are aware of us and the benefits of ranked choice voting trying to make sure that that negativity doesn't spread. So a two-part reaction to that. But yeah, in general, ranked choice voting is actually not from the start of this era of ranked choice voting in 2004. The state of Michigan has said that ranked choice voting cannot be used by the cities. I'll leave it.
Thank you very much. The next question talks about keeping volunteers and supporters engaged, especially in the early process, and there not being big, exciting progress every month.
I agree that that's a big challenge. With having a goal, with having the statewide in mind, or with having even specific city campaigns. It's been great to have things for volunteers to do. In the interim, I agree that that has been a challenge. So I can't say otherwise, but it would reemphasize what I said now, and I think or what I said before in this meeting about how permanent when we talk about ranked spending, how permanent it lasts amongst people, and reemphasize that there's so many people out there who want to hear of a better and different way, um, who are so frustrated with their politics. This only gets worse and worse over time. The only other thing I would add is I think bigger things that are branded are good instead of an individual town hall series, and having even if it's not around a specific campaign, the bigger the program, I would call it, the more appealing it is both to the public and to volunteers. So making cool initiatives and programs, I think, is a cool way to go. I'll leave it.
Okay. Another question, how did you get high participation at your town halls, especially reaching out to conservative voters?
Couple things. I can't say we've even particularly succeeded at that. That's a difficult problem. But I will say, going back to what I said earlier in terms of getting people's having those conversations with people who are around and getting their cards and numbers, does works for the reason of you can get a collection of people, in this case conservatives or any specific interest group, who want to advocate for the cause, and so that's a I think that's the way that we've done conservative outreach over time, building up our own, making sure to have individual contacts and building up our own list of people who would do that reach out. Otherwise, I going back to what I said before, I think town halls are really great to have as a series or have be part of a larger program where people know that if they can't miss one, if they can't make one, they can go to another. And also it just gets shared more on social media or in the media in general if it's a statewide town hall series or a region-wide town hall series rather than a one-off town hall.
I
That's
really like
my
that. I
feeling.
really love the idea of having a town hall. Like we do sometimes just do speaking engagements and like a talk, but I think the word town hall just brings to mind that whole civics and that community participation.
Mhm. And we've learned at least it's different in different places. Like up north, town hall isn't the term they would use. I think it would be speech.
That's interesting. Michelle asks, did the 5 cities pass ordinances or referendum, excuse me, or resolutions?
Sorry, say it again, Denise. There was back.
Did what was your ballot language in the 5 cities that passed it? Was it an ordinance, a referendum, a resolution, or just we will use ranked choice voting and the state won't let us, so we're just,
No, these were city charter amendments. So these actually are
I
amendments to
see.
city charter. City charter requires the use of ranked choice voting in elections there. But I mean, due to our own legal research, though it also does say when state law allows it, we don't want to create a conflict where things will be tied up in courts. I mean, as much as we would love for ranked choice voting to be used, going through the legal process. We didn't want there to be a conflict that would prevent there to be elections at all, or to make sure, have it create a situation where there is endless judicial adjudication. So these are city charter amendments that require the use of ranked choice voting, but when there's a clear state allowed process for it.
All right, thanks. And one of the last questions, how did you get legislators to be aware of you and work with you? And do they lean to one specific party, or was it pretty much bipartisan?
I mean, in a general sense, ranked choice voting is a nonpartisan movement, of course, and we want supporters of all sides. In Michigan, it hasn't tended to be such in the state legislature, whereas in the state house, the Republican-led House voted along party lines to ban ranked choice voting. The Senate has not taken up the bill, so it unfortunately, in our experience here in Michigan, has been partisan in the state legislature. But we know, of course, that ranked choice voting itself is not. So that's an unfortunate result. How did we get the state legislature to be aware of us? That's a great question. I mean, there's a whole, it's hard to get into all of it. And this would be important for any sort of campaign plan, of course, but there's an important part of just being aware from a town hall series. There's eventual possibility of getting press or getting people from a local party or local influencer, I would say. I mean, there's people in our movement who are just really powerful within their communities. They've run for city council. They're the sort of in a fundraising sense, these are bundlers, but these aren't necessarily sort of similar, if you know that term, but similar local influencers, where they're the kind of people who know everybody, they run for city council, and they go to tons of political events. They will be aware of your town hall series and invite you in and talk to those local people, mayors or city councils, who will then from there talk to local parties, talk to congressional parties, and you'll be elected officials all the way up to the state legislators will be aware of your campaign through that. It also could be through the press uh, around the town hall series. And then again, your hires are also important, at least in my experience. Hires are important. Having a campaign director or strategic advisor or someone who's worked in campaigns and has those relationships is another key aspect of reaching legislators. So there's a lot of various avenues through press, local connections, your hires connections, or like I said, your own supporters connections, your own supporters who eventually become elected officials. So themselves. Those are the ones that come top of mind to me. But that's a great question.
And follow-up question to that, you said they're helping you keep the negative rhetoric at bay. So wondering what got them to help with that.
Oh, was there a specific reference to what I said?
Apparently, yes.
God, I was wondering if you knew what it was.
Well, Kristen, you want to take this?
Yeah,
Yeah, for free to, yeah.
you had mentioned that some of the people at the State House were kind of helping keep the negative rhetoric away with the ban bill and everything that was happening earlier this year. And so I was curious as to what drove that and how they got involved in doing that. Or was that just a natural occurrence because you already had supporters there?
Got it. I think what I was meaning when I said that, so sorry if I miscommunicated, was, that's an interesting thought. I didn't mean to say that there were legislators who were keeping the negative rhetoric at bay, although that's totally possible amongst our own supporters there. But what I meant was our legislative connections and the connections that we've built, just like answering that I answered in the last question. Those sort of relationships were keeping the negative relationships at bay. In terms of the legislators knowing that they had contacts and are them being able to reach out for questions and us being able to send information is, of course, that keeps the negativity at bay because they're hearing the information from the supporters rather than just from the opponents who are driving the conversation. So those building up those relationships with legislators and of course with influencers of all type um, ensures that negativity has less of an impact because they have the positive messaging and reinforcement and first point of contact to be able to work with.
Thanks,
Does that
Pat. And I have my own question that I fielded before everybody got here. What metrics did you use to let you know that you were ready to go for the statewide?
Did I cut out or did you cut out?
No, you didn't cut out. You're still there. Were you able to hear the question?
No.
Okay, so the question is, what metrics did you use to let you know that Rank My Vote was ready to go for the statewide ballot initiative rather than to continue to get more cities?
Got it. Yeah, I know you said you were going to ask this. So earlier when I was coming up with this, I was like, there's a lot of detail in there. Like there's a lot of questions one at a time. There was different milestones in terms of fundraising, in terms of supporters at the different levels. In terms of when we launch the campaign, can we get enough to do the next stage, next stage, next stage? So while I guess to say that we didn't know while our statewide campaign was in mind, it was divided up into how successful will the town hall series be? We'll be able to fundraise for the next stage of being able to fill up our internal structure. Will we be able to gather the volunteers? Will we be able to fill up the field teams in order to scale up the number of volunteers? And then will we be able to achieve the number of volunteers that we need to be able to run the signature gathering campaign? All at different stages from when we first had the idea that we thought that we could be ready, that the state could be ready at the beginning of a year and a half ago. So I know that's not an exact clear question of the different milestones that are clear answer to the different milestones that we had laid out, or that I laid out there, but there were different milestones all along the way. I don't know if that helps or not.
Pat, I have a quick question. This is Michelle.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much. I just went to a BITS conference and Michigan was all over it. I was so impressed with the activism and the diversity in that room. It just blew me away. So I guess my question to you is, you didn't mention anything about coalitions and how that played into your strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. Michigan is such a ballot initiative state, driven with there's so much experience in the state of Michigan. We specifically, coalitions are really great and essential and key to a win. I think our strategy that we try to entail is both growing our coalitions and relationships within them, but also ensuring that we also had our own volunteer base. So in this, I focused on our own volunteer base, and we were focused on making sure that we hit our own volunteer metrics. So it's a specific model of making sure that our metrics were set for our growth rate in terms of the milestones that we hit. Yeah, there's a different model in terms of relying on coalition partners to build up volunteer base. Like in our strategy revolved around ourselves building up our own volunteer base rather than a specific reliance on volunteers recruiting for the statewide initiative itself. But of course, coalition partners are key to everything that I said before in terms of building those relationships and contributing to that volunteer base and building out the necessity of reaching out to people on the ground and legislators up to scale to all the necessary levels.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for your great work.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Are there any other questions? All right, well, Pat, thank you so much for coming and giving us a pep talk and letting us know how things are going in Michigan. And we all wish you the very, very best of luck because your success will help our success. But also we wish you the best of luck because Michigan deserves ranked choice voting, as do we all.
As do we all. That is exactly that. We all do. And again, it's so great to meet people and have people realize that we do. So we just got to get out there and talk to those good people who want a better democracy. You're all doing great work. Thank you for inviting me. And keep up the great work, everyone.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Good night. So what's next? Tell your friends, get them to support Rank the Vote Ohio. Have your Rank the Something party. Rank your candy, rank your pumpkin, rank your chili, rank your beer, rank your wine. I don't care. Have a party. We like parties. We can provide a speaker, entertainment, and you provide the venue. You can donate following the link in the agenda. You can write letters to the editor. There is LTE. I have that on the wrong date. The next LTA training will probably be November, around the Tuesday there. Visit our YouTube channel and watch our testimony training. Learn how to speak out against the ban bill. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Kristen. LTA training is the very first Tuesday of November, and there is a link in the chat. RSVP for our next month's statewide meeting. We're going to hear from Ishmar Volic, author and mathematician, about his recent book, Making Democracy Count, How Mathematics Improves Voting, Electoral Maps, and Representation. I watched a presentation of his that he did with Fair Vote, and it just blows me away, though. Basically, the answer is ranked choice voting, but I'll let him describe and tell you exactly how that works. Upcoming events, you can find them at rtvo.org/calendar. Tomorrow night, RSVP for Quiz for a Cause in Cleveland Heights tomorrow. Gonna be a bang. There's lots of people coming already. Rank the Vote National Speaker Training is also tomorrow. Central Chapter is doing Northside Market Canvas near Columbus every Wednesday. Volunteer orientation is Tuesday or Thursday. If you are new to Rank the Vote Ohio, highly recommend volunteer orientation. They go over the pitch, they go over base camp and how we connect. It's not doesn't take too much of your time, and it's worth the while. The Cincinnati chapter meeting, if you're in that area, is Saturday, October 25th. And then there is a Dayton Democracy Summit, October 27th from 8 to 3, and the address is in the agenda. And with that, thank you all so much for coming. I will hang around for a few minutes if there's anything anybody wants to say to me. And thank you, thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Casey.